Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we're diving right in today because we are completely bypassing those slow burn introductions you might be used to. Instead, we're jumping straight into what is arguably one of the most explosive, unconventional, and just downright thrilling opening chapters in fantasy manga history. We're unpacking the first chapter of Reverend Insanity. It's a story that completely flips the script on traditional hero narratives, and let me tell you, if you appreciate a story that starts at the absolute boiling point and somehow only gets wilder from there, you are going to absolutely love how this sets the stage.
So, we literally open at the climax of a life. Imagine being thrown directly onto a wind-swept cliffside where our protagonist is basically standing at death's door. But the crazy thing is, he isn't begging for his life, and he certainly isn't repenting. He looks out at the mob surrounding him, and his view is incredibly cynical yet sharply observant. I mean, they're chanting about justice, right? But he just cuts right through the noise. To him, they're nothing but a bunch of hypocrites using morality as a super thin veil for their own greed. What this brilliantly illustrates is an ultimate standoff. It's not some honorable one-on-one duel. We have this solitary figure, bloody and cornered, facing down what looks like the entire world. These are the United Sects, made up of warriors and martial artists of all disciplines, who have banded together for one single purpose: to force him to hand over his most prized possession. It's this visually striking David versus Goliath moment, except in this case, David might actually be the villain.
Now you might be wondering, why is this guy being hunted by the entire world? Well, we quickly learn about his infamous blood-soaked reputation. The leaders of this mob call him a filthy demon, and they explicitly call out his past crimes. This is a man who slaughtered his entire clan, his own flesh and blood, 300 years prior. And why did he do it? Literally just to refine a single mysterious item. It establishes right out of the gate that our protagonist is ruthless, patient, and completely unbothered by traditional morality.
So what is this item that warrants the slaughter of a clan and the mobilization of every righteous sect in the land? Let's define it. It's called the Spring Autumn Cicada. In the incredibly dense and fascinating lore of this world, this is a mystical gusta, which is a sort of magical creature or artifact, that possesses the ultimate power, the ability to leap backward through time. It's a literal time machine in a fantasy setting, and that is the treasure the mob is here to steal. Surrounded, battered, and totally out of options, the demon makes a shocking move. In a moment of apparent desperation, he actually summons the glowing, ethereal Spring Autumn Cicada and just tosses it directly toward his enemies. And almost instantly, all their big talk of justice and punishing the wicked completely vanishes. The mob descends into this frantic, greedy scramble, literally fighting each other just to get their hands on this ultimate power. And it proves his point about their hypocrisy perfectly.
But here's the crucial point. This isn't a surrender at all. It is a massive, lethal trap. The moment they converge on the prize, the energy shifts violently. The self-proclaimed righteous warriors suddenly realize their mistake, screaming, "Idiots, it's a trap!" as the light expands. Our protagonist has expertly played on their greed, instantly turning his own surrender into a devastating suicidal counterattack.
Just look at the sheer maniacal defiance on his face here. There is absolutely no fear, no regret. As he triggers this massive release of energy right before his own demise, he doesn't pray for forgiveness. Instead, he throws his head back and screams, "I shall still be a demon in my next life." He is fully committed to his path, completely unrepentant, to his very last breath.
And then, boom, the resulting self-destruction wipes out everything. The demon, the United Sects, the leaders demanding justice, all of it is just consumed in a blinding flash of raw energy. It's a literal and figurative wiping of the slate and an apocalyptic end to a 500-year reign of terror.
When the smoke finally clears, this is all that's left. A massive, desolate crater where a mountain standoff just occurred. But among the few survivors looking over the devastation, there's no celebration of victory. Instead, they are left with a haunting realization. As one of them notes, if the legend of the Spring Autumn Cicada is true, then this isn't the end. The demon isn't truly dead, he's just gone. And he is going to come back and become the ultimate scourge of the world.
And man, come back he does. We've just witnessed the peak of his infamy in his spectacular self-destruction in year 500. But powered by the cicada, we track a massive 500-year leap backward through time, dropping us squarely at year 0 of his journey, completely resetting the narrative and the world itself.
The blinding chaos of that explosion shifts abruptly to this, the quiet, moody, atmospheric Gu Yue Village. It is exactly 5 centuries earlier, we're seeing the protagonist's childhood home on the eve of their awakening ceremony, which is this critical rite of passage where young clan members discover their latent magical talents. The contrast in tone from that explosive cliffside is just incredibly sharp and effective.
Notice the insane juxtaposition here. We just left a future where every single sect leader in the world despised our protagonist and wanted him dead. But here, 500 years in the past, we see the past clan leaders, including clan head Gu Yue Village, bowing deeply in the ancestral shrine. They are desperately praying to the heavens to bestow them with a genius, someone who can bring hope and power back to their struggling clan.
Now, this desperation isn't coming out of nowhere. It stems from a very real, very imminent threat. They're terrified of the latent talent of a rival village's prodigy, a young guy named Bai Ningbing. As the elders discuss, this kid reached the 3rd level in just a short period of 2 years. He's an absolute elite among youngsters, and his rapid rise threatens the delicate balance of power between the neighboring clans. Gu Yue Village desperately needs an answer to him.
Set against this whole socio-political backdrop, the elders look out over their illuminated village at night. They carry a heavy burden. They firmly believe that the young generation is the absolute future of the clan. If they don't produce a prodigy of their own during tomorrow's awakening ceremony, they genuinely fear their clan will eventually be swallowed whole by their rivals. Everything hinges on tomorrow.
So, who exactly is the focus of all these frantic prayers? It's a young boy from the Fang family. Let's break down the freakishly early developmental milestones of this resident genius that have the whole village talking. First, he spoke his first words at just 3 months old. Second, he was walking at 4 months old. And third, by the time he was 5 years old, he was composing and reciting complex poetry. I mean, wow, right?
As this slide illustrates, the young boy we saw bleeding out on the cliff in the future was actually once a beloved, universally praised local prodigy. The villagers speak of him with complete awe. They remember him growing up, casually dropping profound poems that amaze the adults. To the village, he isn't just a smart kid, he's a beacon of absolute brilliance.
The clan elders are basically banking their entire future on him. Despite the boy being tragically orphaned at a young age and raised by his aunt and uncle, the leadership fully expects this child to exhibit incredibly rare, top-tier, A-grade talent during the upcoming test. They talk about his poems, things like proposing a toast and ode to the plum, calling him a true genius who will undoubtedly save them.
The clan head even dismisses the elders for the night with a strict warning. He reminds everyone to compete fairly and with honor during the ceremony. No tricks, no cheating that could lead to disunion. Which is honestly deeply, darkly funny when you consider exactly who this innocent child actually is on the inside and what he's perfectly willing to do to his own bloodline in the centuries to come.
All right, shifting back to our protagonist. He wakes up in his fragile teenage body on a rainy night. But check out his reaction. He doesn't panic. He doesn't freak out about time travel. He immediately analyzes his situation, realizes the Spring Autumn Cicada actually worked, and just totally accepts his new bizarre reality. He looks out the window at the storm and calmly declares that having to experience everything again simply doesn't matter to him.
He has this moment of profound clarity here. He poetically realizes that his life's work, his unbelievable cultivation achievements, his massive reservoir of power, nearly all of it is completely gone, erased by time. Yet his heart still yearns toward the heavens. His ambition, his drive, and his sheer willpower remain completely unbroken.
And this sets up the truly fascinating narrative irony that drives this whole story. The village is looking at this boy as their pure, untainted beacon of hope and honor. But secretly, housed inside that teenage body, is the mind of a 500-year-old, battle-hardened, utterly ruthless villain. He views the fetters of mortal victory and defeat as entirely empty concepts. He is playing a completely different game than the elders who are praying for him.
Which leaves us with this chilling final thought, as he smirks in the dark and declares, "I'm on the path again, with no regrets." We know exactly what his path entails, and it forces us to ask a compelling question. What happens to a world when an incredibly intelligent, unrepentant monster, who already knows the future, is handed a perfectly clean slate? That's the journey this explainer has set up for you today. Thank you so much for following along, and keep questioning the nature of justice in the stories you read.